Alrighty, thanks Eric for hosting this amazing day here. We'll kind of get right into it. We're going to be talking about logon simulators and some options and breakdowns. So for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Noel. I'm an independent consultant out of the Madison, Wisconsin area, greater Milwaukee area. I'm also a Citrix CTA, and if you want to contact me, you can reach me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or visit my website. So for the agenda today, we're going to be going over various different vendors and products and some of the architecture that's involved, as well as the setup and install for them. We'll also be going over configuration and some reports and what the roadmap items look like for those various vendors and products. We'll talk a little bit about the feature comparison, going through each of the main features for each product and kind of comparing them and seeing which vendor has which feature, as well as tips for successful simulations. If you're going to be tweeting this today, use the hashtag virtualexpo and sync or swim. So what are logon simulators? Well, ControlUp defines them as a way to simulate users' logon to test the performance and analyze every part of the process. You can create synthetic sessions in a user logon and test the availability and responsiveness of all elements of real user logons in your environment. So a lot of what I'm talking about today involves Citrix, but just know wherever that word comes up, it also is applicable to Microsoft RDS and VMware Horizon. So we have a slew of different problems that are out there today. Number one, we have lots of external issues that can involve DNS, NAT, firewall. We have access issues that involve LDAP, two-factor, brokering, storefront issues, any of the backend server type stuff, as well as backend issues that can happen around network, storage, compute, hypervisor, NAS profiles, all the different elements that EUC brings to the table. There's application issues, whether that's involving upgrades, file paths, maybe a program exists on one server but not the other, or just differences in NTFS security. Also, we're reactive to a lot of resolutions. We're waiting for the calls to the help desk to come in. We have off-hour surprises, or things break around change control windows. So how do we solve those? Well, one way to solve them is use Logon Simulator. This is definitely a tool in the arsenal. You should be using others as well, but this will definitely help you. And they help you by, setting up tests to automate the different logons to your environment. They let you be proactive in your approach instead of being reactive. They integrate with your existing environment, so you don't have to build something brand new, a new Citrix site, new Horizon site, or anything like that. They'll integrate with what you currently have existing. They're able to notify and alert you if there are problems. And everything is certainly revolving around DevOps today. This certainly fits into your DevOps CI/CD platform lifecycle environment. So should I use logon simulators for scalability testing, stress testing, application testing, business workflows? No, I'm kind of putting an asterisk on here. There's certainly an evolution taking place with logon simulators where it's becoming not just important to simulate a session and get to the application or desktop and close out of it, but also dig into the application itself and perform some sort of application transaction just like your user experiencing. But if you're looking just for scalability testing or stress testing, there are dedicated applications and products that can help you with that. So the different vendors we're going to be going through today is ControlUp, e.g. Goliath, Citrix, and LoginPI. There are various different components that make up logon simulators. So we'll start with the first one, which is kind of the server components. This can contain event logs, SQL databases, web interfaces, Windows services, and/or virtual appliances. Second component is the launcher. This is the endpoint of where the session is going to be launched from. This typically contains a receiver or workspace. The target, which is the actual session that is being generated. This can be the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, Microsoft RDS, and VMware Horizon. And lastly, the fourth component, the Active Directory. This will contain the user accounts that are being used, any groups or group policies involved. So we'll start with Control Up here. What I love about Control Up is the simplicity that it brings to the table. The components involved are, a launcher, a target, and then they do their scheduling and notifications based upon scheduled task and event logs. But the install is, very, very easy. Just a next finish type install. And then once you run the main application, you get into this window where pretty much all the configuration takes place. So this big white area window here, that's where the actual session that you're simulating pops up, where you can see, it enumerating the apps, and the login to the desktop or app pops up and then goes away. So moving over to the right-hand side, the connection details area, pretty much all the logon simulators are going to need this pertinent information. You're going to need some sort of URL to connect to. This is your storefront. This is your NetScaler gateway URL. You're going to need a resource to launch. This is your published app or desktop. You're going to need some sort of credentials to use for your simulation, and then any other additional parameters here. Wait before log off. You want to repeat the test. And then just know that you can save these parameters to an XML file and then call them out in a command line format, so you can automatically run them instead of manually opening up this exe and pressing play here once you're ready. So digging into the report section, you can notice here I'm on the summary tab. Each of the simulation that occurs here creates an entry here on the left. You can click on each of those entries and then get a little bit more details on what's going on. It's about a 2-hour window of connection details that it keeps track of, but it's really nice to be able to dig into the failures and then automatically see exactly what's happening. For this failure, you can see that invalid credentials were supplied here. The test details tab kind of gives you more of a overall that breaks down the different various options, the storefront connection, the receiver startup, how long it took to connect, how long the logon took, kind of gives you just the overall seconds in each of those tests. The test log breaks it down even further into the actual steps that are happening. We're starting a storefront connection, we're initializing, we're requesting resources, we're enumerating them, we're clicking on one of the published app or desktop icons, we're getting the ICA file, we're connecting to it, and then at the end, you get your total connection time there. And then basically the program itself writes your success or failures to the event log with the various different event IDs attached to them. So Trenton put out some good blog posts on how to automate this fully. I would definitely recommend checking these out. Basically goes through and how to set up the auto logins, and then he uses the XML files that you can save from the report in a way to put up a scheduled task, start the exe here, no EULA, and then he's going to launch this XML file, which launches some sort of published resource. And then, it does it again. So the key here is know that you can set up multiple launches or multiple published applications or simulations from the one launcher that you have. So one word of caution, when you're saving that XML file, it includes all these different parameters that you see here in it. And then you kind of get an output like this. Notice that your password does appear to be encrypted here, but after looking a little bit further, it's in base 64 format. So a simple PowerShell command can convert that and show the password. So just word of caution, just make sure you lock down those XML files, however you need to lock them down using NTFS security. Pretty similar to other PowerShell means of saving passwords in encrypted format. You're gonna want to lock those down. So Control Up has some great stuff on the roadmap. You might have heard before in the presentation, Scout Bees is going to be their managed service product to monitor virtual apps and desktops and Citrus Cloud sessions as well as VMware Horizon. And you get a pretty nice depiction here of the different types of apps that are being launched. You can see that there's 3 separate ones that are going. Quickly can view what region the launcher is in. the health of it, how long the sessions are taking to start, and what apps they are. And the great thing about this is that there is no launcher, no SQL required, fully SaaS-based, very easy to use. So really looking forward to this one. So next on the list is EG. EG is another great product, very polished. They offer the ability to use SaaS as well, or on-prem setup. They have requirement for SQL, launcher, and target. So to use, I went ahead and did their SaaS-based version in the home lab. Very easy to register. You go to the link above. You set up your username and password email, and you kind of choose which simulation you want to do, the Citrix Logon, the VMware Horizon. After you set up which one you want to go with, of course, you're going to enter in, the pertinent site URL. Is this Citrix Cloud or not? What application or desktop resource you're going to launch? You're going to enter in your credentials. Then they're going to give you the option for two-factor authentication. With the Logon simulators, obviously you're going to need some sort of static token. You won't be able to use one that changes on you, but they give you the option to use a two-factor, so you don't have to set up a secondary NetScaler gateway, which is nice. They also give you the option here for the disclaimer. If you have a disclaimer, you can choose yes there, and it will enter right through that. And then for the alerting section, you can alert by the 3 different categories here. Select which one is pertinent to you and your email address, and off you go. You'll get alerts on failures, and the pertinent information is included in that email. So they kind of have 2 different ones, the EG Express and then EG Enterprise, which is their full featured. For the Express version, they support one Citrix site, up to 3 applications, up to 3 users, then do a rolling history of 7 days. If you're going to get the EG Enterprise, it's all unlimited there. So the reporting section is great. Again, this is all from the browser here, but they color coded it nicely and laid out everything very well for you. Green is good, red's bad. You notice here that they give you a good breakdown of what step it's on, the availability percentage, and then how long things are taking at each step. And then just know that you can click over here on the magnifying glass or the charts to get a little bit more of a breakdown and detail on each one of those. So this screenshot kind of shows you that you're launching multiple different applications. The first section here, the Logon section, they're giving you, yes, this application was available, or it might not have been available at the time. They gave the application enumeration and how long that took, and then the application launch took. Just really, giving you a good depiction and a nice overall setup of how things are looking and what's working and what's not working. And then, of course, across the top, you get all the different features for printing, saving, exporting, and all the relevant things. So this is just a nice graph, and all the reports are very nice looking, intuitive. Things are easy to read. Here you can click on each of these different icons here to get a little bit more depiction on detailed logging of how things are looking. Up here they kind of have the tabs to go through the different areas too. But all of these different reports, just give you a different perspective on, is your environment up, is it down, and just they lay out a really nice graph that doesn't have the detail log section. So if you want to send these to your manager, your C-level executives, they don't want to see that a session couldn't receive the ICA file. They want to see, okay, this app was available 70% of the time, and our average logons are this. So just they do a really good job of making that nice and pretty for everyone. So I'm very excited for their roadmap. There's 4 main things coming out in their 7.1 release. They're going to be doing screenshots on failures. So instead of receiving an email that something failed and then combing through the logs to figure out exactly what it was, even some of the logs might be some of the vendor specific terminology. You might not know exactly what that means. So they'll give you a screenshot of the exact step that it failed on for what the user would see. And so that's worth 1,000 words to me. You can Google that error if you fix it right away, but really looking forward to that one. They're also giving you the HDX channel. They're digging more into providing information around that. You can see here that they're doing screen refresh latency, data received and sent, and then frames received and sent. They're also going to work on some better visuals. Don't know how that's possible. Their visuals and reports are great, but they're going to make them better. And then last but not least is, my favorite part of this is the client session simulation. So this is kind of the evolution I'm talking about with it's not just enough to, log into the session, open an app and close it. We really want to do something more, something that mirrors what the user is going to be doing their entering environment, not just to open the session, but to actually work in the app. So this is kind of a depiction of what you could expect it to see, where we log on to Storefront, our apps are there, we launch an app, we log onto the SAP portal, we access some information, and then we perform a task, and then we log out. So you get a good representation of, if it's gonna fail at a certain step, then we'll send you a notification, the app's not working, but at least now you know that, yes, this program should be working. You can test this at all times of the day and everything is working as expected. So looking forward to that. Next on the list is Logon Pi or PI. This is a very polished product as well. I just loved working with this in the lab. Everything went very smoothly. Everything is very intuitive, easy to set up. Yet it's such a powerful product as well. Just contains a wealth of information and flexibility. This is one of the only ones that has a virtual appliance supporting E6i, Hyper-V, such as Hypervisor. Very easy to import. You IP it, and then you basically connect to it with a browser to do all your different setups here. And kind of break it down into 3 different areas: the data, the configuration, and then the other section. So going to the configuration part of it, you name whatever simulation you want to use. Of course, you're going to enter in, a URL, your published app or desktop resource name, what accounts you want to use for it, and then what launcher you want it to launch from. With a lot of these products, you can have, and it's also recommended to have multiple different launchers, but you can choose here if you just want this simulation to occur from one of your launchers, you can do that as well. And then at the bottom here, the steps of action. So we're going to log on every hour. You can change that to whatever you need it to be. We're going to run some sort of application if you want to. We're going to wait and then run it 2 more times. So in this case, I'm running Notepad, but they do offer a bunch of other canned applications that come with it. So you can see here, some of the applications have this interaction on it. So that's not just going to open the app and close the app. That's going to perform some sort of customized script. For Notepad, I'm going to open Notepad, then I'm going to type a few sentences into it and then close out. For Excel, you can create cell, there's create cells and a few more things, but you can also add your own application up here for whatever line of business application your company has, and then create some sort of customized script to do it. Now, the customized scripting portion, they give you some good details on that. You need to download the .NET Core, a Visual Studio Code, and a Logon VSI scripting tool set. And then they provide you a bunch of information and documentation on how to accomplish that. Every part of their docs is very laid out, well laid out, and easy to read. When you set up one of these customizations, it will look something like this. Not for the faint of heart, but it definitely gives you the ability to perform the application transactions on how your users would use the application. So it's very important to do this. This is a great feature. So the reporting section looks very nice as well. Again, all from the web browser that you can get to. They do a really good job of color coding everything. For successes and failures, you can set a threshold on login performance or login times, thresholds on latency here. If it goes above that latency, it will show up red as a failure. If it doesn't, it'll show up green. And then just another report on logon performance, the total logon time, the display protocol connection, profile load time, GPO processing, all the stats you'd expect to see in the session. So this report is kind of doing the Excel interaction. So you can see here that they're doing multiple different steps in the application when they're opening it. They're creating a 5th row, they're saving it, they're creating a 1st row, open a new Excel spreadsheet, create a table, and each of those steps is tracked as a separate metric here for how long did that process take? Did it take too long? What's my threshold? And then reporting on that. So just a great way to confirm that your applications are working in the environment properly. So on their roadmap, they have a few different things. They're doing some notification alerting. They're going to be offering public API support. They're going to support SQL databases. I'm not sure if that means that they're going away from the appliance or if you need that in addition to the SQL database, but there'll be support for SQL databases. And they're also going to enhance the support for Citrix virtual apps. So right now, a lot of the configuration, you have to manually type in the published app or resource name. What they're going to do is, since you already have the URL and credentials, basically you click a button and it populates that all the resources they have access to, and then you just click it. Then you don't worry about that finger in the name or anything. Okay, so next on the list is Goliath. Again, enterprise-ready product that gives you all the flexibility and features you need. This one contains component-wise the SQL, the web browser to manage it, the launcher and target. And again, for the install, it's just a next finished. For all of these different products, you're gonna most likely want to separate your server component from your launch component. In my lab, I combined everything, but if you want this, to be production or enterprise class, something that you can depend on all the time, you're going to want to separate those different roles out. Configuration, pretty similar to the rest. You're going to offer, you're going to name your simulation. You're going to put in your URL, your credentials, again, the endpoint name, because you're going to have multiple different endpoints here. And then at the bottom, you can see that there's the schedule of how often you want the simulation to occur. The option tab, you have a few different options here for auto launching the desktop. Instead of clicking on it, you can run in the simulation invisible, so you don't see it pop up on the actual launcher VM that you're using. Then they give you the authentication options and disclaimer options there if you're doing two-factor or the disclaimer. And then they have the alerts tab and remediation tab for setting up your alerts and or notifications if something goes wrong, and then kind of give you the ability to run some sort of either PowerShell script or some sort of something after if a session does fail to perform some sort of remediation. Again, I really love their reporting. They lay out everything really nice for you. You can see different here that they have 4 different simulations occurring on 2 different endpoints. They give the application or simulation name here with what users doing the simulation, and then what application or desktop is launching. You can see here at the bottom the frequency of how often they're occurring, 10 minutes, 1 day, 10 minutes, 3 hours, and that's easily readable here in this chart to see kind of when things are kicking off. So it just gives you a nice overall schedule of when things are happening. Okay, so a lot to unpack in this screen here, but basically on the left-hand side here, we have all of our simulations that are happening. It's pretty much occurring every 10 minutes here. And then, behind the screens on the right, they give you a little bit more information on successes and failures and kind of overall stuff. But to drill down into it, just click on the magnifying glass, and then it pops up this, availability analyst window here, which breaks it down into the different sections of how long things are taking. And then the details section here just goes into the details of, I'm trying this at this time, this was a success or was a failure. In this case, there was a failure that happened, and then they're going to save a screenshot. So loving that they're providing out of the gate the screenshot feature. It's such a powerful feature to have, and then you get notified on that. You can see exactly what's going on. So their roadmap item include trending the logon times for various stages by user, the location geography, the application, and they're also working on enhancing technology to be able to support web-based EMR and EHR applications. Some of those web apps, don't require some sort of remote access tool, so you don't have to have Citrix or Horizon to simulate the logons. They can simulate it straight to do something with that EMR or EHR application. Okay, so on to Citrix. They have their probing technology. The application probes came out in 718. The desktop probes came out in 1906. It does require a premium license. Again, this one's very easy to use, just requires the launcher and the target. On the launcher itself, you'll run the exe for it. That kind of pops up. For the most part, this just uses director for everything. So in here, you'll enter in your director URL, your credential that you want to use for your Logon simulation. You'll validate them. It does work with Citrix Cloud. And then you go on to configure what application you want to launch, what machines you want them to launch on. You'll type an email if you want to get notified, and then how often you want that probe to occur. And then, from director, you can go into the probing section, and this, lays out all your successes and failures. You can go last 7 days. You can sort by all probe results. You can just do failed probe results, certain types of failed ones that fail at different sections. So they give you a kind of, a more simple screen of probing and just figuring out if things are successes or failures. Doesn't have as many features as the vendors, but if you are entitled to that license, might be worth your while. So let's do a feature comparison of what we have so far. I do want to note that the SaaS one up here, that's not saying that it works with Citrix Cloud or not. That's just basically saying that they offer a SaaS-based solution for their simulation. And when looking at this, I try not to look at, if there's a lot of red X's, it's not a good product. That's you got to fit the product that fits your use case. I still today, go to Control Up just for its simplicity. So simple to use and get going. And then with their, their new SaaS-based solution on the radar, they're checking off a lot of those boxes as well. But EG and Goliath, definitely enterprise class solutions. Very feature rich, awesome with reporting, and providing the web GUI there. And then Logon PI, just a very enterprise polished tool, giving you all the features you need, and also the application transaction ability to customize your applications to perform some sort of real world process that your users will be doing. And then, Citrix on the right here, which, checks the boxes. Again, if you're entitled to it, it's a nice to have. So there are different best practices around that I found when setting them up. So you definitely want to dedicate your VMs for the launcher itself. You're most likely going to have more of them. And you want to separate your roles and not share any roles with other different components for something else. You'll want to treat this like an enterprise application. Next is the auto login. You want to set some sort of auto login on those VMs. Again, Trenton put out a nice blog post on that and how to do that, but there's various others as well. You'll want this geo-dispersed. A lot of our environments today have either a DR or multi-data center. So you want to set up multiple launchers that not only connect internally to your environment, but also through your NetScaler gateway, as well as if you have, East Coast and West Coast data center, you try, set up launches that traverse the WAN to see what the latency and logon times are. Pretty much wherever your dense user population is, you're going to want some sort of Logon Simulator launcher. And then also use multiple user accounts for your Logon simulations, and make sure you provide them least privileged access. For some of these solutions that offer the SaaS-based model, you are going to be typing in your credentials in their SaaS-based solution. So make sure you give them the least privileged access. So for your target, not only use the simulations on your production VMs, but also your test VMs. It's the perfect opportunity to kind of insert this into the DevOps lifecycle. Before the user acceptance testing begins, you can have your automated Logon simulators running this published app or desktop that that the admins test out first before it hits UAT to make sure everything is running before they get in there. And then definitely test your applications if you have the feature available with the product or using some other product as well. One comes to mind is AutoIt. I know it's been around for a long time, but it's a way for you to emulate keystrokes, mouse movements, and stuff like that for you to perform some sort of application automation. But we definitely, our users are coming into our environments to test these applications, so we want to test them before they get there as well. So scheduling, definitely schedule this 24/7, and during logon storms, you want to see, you know, how your logon sims are doing during times of distress. I'm not saying you need to set up thousands of logons simulators here, but you definitely want to get some sort of idea and depiction of if everything's working properly during busy times. And definitely set up some sort of alerts to be proactive. And to be proactive, you need to do some sort of remediation around them. What helps is having full stack monitoring around them. Again, I'll just pick on Control up here. They have their monitoring solution when it came out with their automation feature. And you know, this is a very easy way for you to, you know, perform your logon simulations upon certain types of failure. You know, recognize that you can automatically remediate those via your full stack monitor, whatever you have. So just wrapping things up. Thanks again, Eric. If there's any questions, I'm available to answer them now. Otherwise, thanks for having me. It's been great.